It is. No, it's fine. Good. Right, okay, we're live. So I'm Adam Gordon from Candidate ID, and we do these sessions once every sort of 2 or 3 weeks. We call it Talent Pipe, and it's all about our pipeline of talented people that are operating in the recruitment world, and bringing them in, asking them some questions, asking their perspectives, and then sharing that with everybody. So thanks to those of you who have signed in live. Please feel free to post any comments or questions in the chat. And we're going to be about 45 minutes, something like that. So my guest today is Ryan McCabe, who is the CEO of Odro. Ryan, my first question is, could you just introduce yourself and just explain a bit about your background?
Sure. So I'm Ryan McCabe, as Adam said. Thanks for having me on, Adam. I'm the chief executive of Odro. So I have been the chief executive of Odro for 4 years. So I didn't found the business. My business partner, Bill, started the company. And when I met Bill, it was still just Bill. But he had this idea and he registered the business. And the idea was absolutely not to be a recruitment technology business. Odro stands for Online Dispute Resolution Organisation.
Right, you've answered question 2. You've done it already.
So that's the one thing everyone always asks. The thing is, when I met Bill and I saw the opportunity to apply it in recruitment, which I'll go into why that was the case. But when I saw that opportunity, I thought we'll change the name later. It's a rubbish name, doesn't mean anything. It's horrible to say with a Scottish accent. We'll deal with it another time. And then before we knew it, we were sort of 2.5 years in, 1,000 recruiters or whatever, and we thought, oh no, it's too late to change. We've done so much work building it. But before the days of Odro, I was a recruiter. I tell everyone the same story. Before I was on this side of the fence, I was actually looking over now. I was a terrible recruiter. I was the type of agency that would, throw enough mud at the wall and hope it sticks. I was only in it for the money. I wasn't trained by a big business, so I didn't understand best practice. And that's actually served me very, very well because I felt the pain of being that guy. So when I'm now going out and training recruiters on their general day-to-day and how we use Odro, it just, I can resonate with them so much. When I say you make 50 calls and get 50 no's, I sat in that seat, I made those calls, and I now know from leaving and going the other side, I now know how to solve that. So before that, I was a mechanical engineer. So I'm a qualified mechanical engineer. And I did that. I just didn't enjoy it. It served me well to make sure that I didn't kill myself during my teens because I had to always turn up to uni and work. But at the same time, it just wasn't for me, and moved into a more kind of people-centric role in recruitment.
Yeah, but hold on a second though. Being a mechanical engineer does mean you have a technical brain. So you can understand things like, if you're running a technology business, you can understand how all the components come together and things like that. You don't need to be a software engineer to understand that. But if you're a mechanical engineer, then it definitely gives you an advantage, I think, over somebody like me, who is not that.
I think I would agree with you to an extent. I would love to understand the technical aspect a hell of a lot more than I do, but I'm probably much further on than someone who just comes in and says, hey, I've been selling for years, or I've been, not in a technical role in my life before. I had a very good boss when I was a mechanical engineer. So when I was an apprentice coming through in the office, it was always, I had a boss called Scott, and he would run me into the ground every day if I didn't have a paper trail on something, if I hadn't explained the right thought process behind something. So I had a very tough yet very, very rewarding apprenticeship, and that is genuinely, I attribute a lot of what we can do today on the back of me, kind of eating dirt for 4 years. But my thinking behind that's the same way.
There's actually, now you say that, there's things that you and I talk reasonably regularly just about kind of basically running a recruitment technology business, and there's a couple of things that you've told me about where I've thought you've got quite a lot of process in there, and so things like you've gone and done a lot of study around sales processes and things like that. And actually, I can see methodologies maybe that are a little bit more structured and less kamikaze than mine, for example. So, yeah.
I think I used to. I mean, we were a lot worse when we started. Like, we're really going through that transition in the last year. Like before that, we were just finding out what works. Like as a business, you can't start and then prioritize process over results. It's just results. You know, especially for us, we spent 3 years or 2.5 years not like literally refusing to work with big companies, refusing to even pitch at big companies because we knew we would get addicted to the process. We would get so far in, and the chances are we'd spend a year on it and then be told no at the end. And we couldn't afford to do that. So we just focused on whoever we could speak to, whatever way possible. Can we get our message across, and does it work for them to buy it? And then only when we started getting sort of 20 people, it's like, right, okay, hold on. If we want to get to 50 heads or 150 heads, we can't just rely on, you know, oh, well, you know, that worked really well for me last month. I'm going to see what happens. Yeah. We have to have a scalable process and just trust in that rather than hoping for a bit of luck. I actually posted that on LinkedIn yesterday.
Yeah. No, well, we'll come on to social media later because got a lot of questions to ask you about that. Couple of things that you've said, which I wanted to just quickly mention. You were the kind of recruiter. You said, I mean, basically, you've said you were a terrible recruiter.
I was a terrible recruiter.
Throw enough mud and see what sticks, and only in it for the money. I'm not sure if they completely describe my approach to having been a recruiter, but it probably wasn't that far away from those things.
Is that just recruiters in the early 2000s?
Yeah, it could be. So the other thing I just wanted to say was, because I should have said this at the beginning, actually. Normally we have people on here who are maybe like in, London might be pretty close, or the USA or whatever. I can actually see the top of the building that you're in, right down the River Clyde here, and I can see the top of the building that you're in. So this is definitely the closest guest we've had on this show.
There's not many of us in Scotland,
No, as we know, because I've just set up a LinkedIn group for HR Tech Scotland, and there's, I think, the 7 people I invited to join have all joined, which is great.
It's 100%
success rate, but I'm not sure it's going to be the most vibrant. No. So, okay, we've got a question already from Iker, and Iker, this is going probably about 10 questions into where I was going to go, so I'm going to save it for now and come back to it. But Iker, I will ask the question. So let's go on to Odro. What does it do? Give us the description.
It's video technology for recruiters. So there's 2 sides to Odro. You use video to send personalised video messages to candidates, or if you're a recruiter, the recruitment agency, you send it to clients. So that's what we call Odro Capture. And then we have Odro Interviewing, which has 3 flavours in it. You have live interviewing, which is pretty much like this, and you would record it. So like recording a Skype call in basic terms, it's recording a live video call, and you can then use that to send across to other hiring managers so they can see the real life interview rather than relying on second-hand information. We have solo interviews, as we call them, which is where where the candidate interviews themselves to the questions you have set as they appear on screen. Right. And then we have Odro the video shortlist, which allows you to compile both of those types of interviews into a one-click portal for someone to click on and see all of the candidates, all of the CVs, all of the interview notes, and any other supporting documentation, and a nice friendly UI that allows them to give feedback and things like that. So it's very basic. So
CVs would be attached to that as well. So it's right. Okay, that's great. I learn something new about Odro every time I ask you about it.
Yeah. So listen. The thing is, one thing which I'm sure we'll cover. I'm probably one of the few in the video interview industry that will say that video will never replace CVs. I just don't see it as a human being. I can skim a CV. I cannot skim a video and get the same amount of information out of it. And there's always that first step of I want to skim them. Then I want to understand more about them. That's when the video comes into play. So for me, I don't think that I think we should be prioritizing the CV as a first step. And the best thing we can do is say, look, we can give you a very simple one-click link Look, our customers are recruitment agencies, right? So we give them the ability to send the hiring manager a link. They don't have an email with 5 CVs, 7 pages of interview notes, all these different, it's one link. And they click the link, and when the hiring manager opens it, you've got a video of the agency asking their own questions. So the hiring manager has said, ask them these questions. So the recruiter goes, okay, goes and records the answers to those questions unedited.
Yeah.
And then that's next to the CV. And there's a bit below where they can comment and say, oh, I like this guy, can you bring him in? So from a hiring manager experience point of view, they click a link and they've got everything they need. So that was quite a big thing for us, was simplicity. And I read a book 4 years ago that focused on frictionless software. And that was really that was where that UI was built. We say, look, all we want a hiring manager to do is to click it and everything's there.
Yeah.
So that's where we are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know I'm going back again, but just sort of really quickly back to Odro and what it actually stands for. That's quite ironic because dispute resolution is something that has to happen in recruitment every single day.
I know. I know.
What you don't want is to be involved in a dispute resolution about like who gets the fee and stuff like that.
No.
Who was to blame for the recruitment process failing?
Not rebating my fee.
No, exactly. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of your own company statistics. Could you just explain why and give us a bit more details? So, 72% open rates with personalized video messages.
Yes.
That appears to be much, much higher than I think it would be if there's no personalized video message.
Oh, absolutely.
How and why?
Okay, so if I go back to the reason we do everything is because recruiters right now can't stand out, or they struggle to stand out. There's a lot of noise, right? It's a dense industry. A lot of people are trying to win the business. They're trying to win the candidate. They're trying to win the client. And I'm not saying that they aren't good when they get in the door, but getting the message through is the hardest part. Yeah. So when we created Odro Capture, I've actually got, if you go into my Vimeo channel, there's a picture of me, or there's I think there's about 40 videos of me before Capture was invented. What we do is we recommend that we say, you record a video for someone, but the thumbnail is holding up a whiteboard like this.
Yeah.
Right? Now, what's happened here is the majority of recruiters, thousands and thousands and thousands of recruiters across the UK, let's talk about the UK just for the moment, they say the same thing. Hi, Adam, I have a great role that you would be interested in. I've read your profile and your experience in keyword suits me. Give me a call if you're interested. Everyone knows that's a copy paste. They know it's a template and they don't reply, and response rates are in the 1% and 3% at best.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
By sending a video, when you send this through, you're firstly making the client feel, the candidate, feel special. Right now, hold on a minute, this guy or girl has taken the time to actually read my profile. There's no way holding that up. There is no way that's copy pasted. So they have actually encouraged it. Also, video is so new right now, especially on LinkedIn and email. Personalized video is so new that people want you. People say, that's different. What is that? Yeah. And that also contributes to the increase. But the big thing is our 15-15 methodology behind what's in the video. Mm-hmm. So the way I look at it is holding this sign up with the candidate's name on it is like a really good subject title in an email. The subject title encourages the open. Yeah. But if the email contains rubbish, then they're not gonna do anything with it. So that's the subject title, and then what you say is the body of the email. So let's look at statistics of emails over the years. The first 2 lines are the bit that you've got to capture their attention. Otherwise, you lose them and they don't read the bottom bit. So let's apply that to video. Yeah. The first 15 seconds of your video have to be what we say is hyper personal. We recommend no one even introduces themselves at the start, because what happens is, hi, I'm Ryan from Odro. We do this, we're the best. Sorry, that's the first 2 lines of my email, and it's copy paste. I'm out. Yeah. Whereas what we say is, Adam, I've been watching you since you before candidate ID days and social media search. I've got this fantastic role as the MD of XYZ. I wanted to speak to you about it. My name's Ryan McCabe. I'm a recruiter for such and such, and then you get 15 seconds to pitch yourself. That's why we call it the 15-15. The first 15 is hyper personal about them. The second 15 seconds is your pitch, and the final 2 things we say are, the pitch is not for the job or the interview. It's just for a call. You're a recruiter. You do what you do best on the phone or in person. Just pitch for the call.
Yeah.
And then the second part of that is the call to action has got to be on you, not them.
Yeah.
I've got this fantastic role for you. I'm going to call you at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. But if that doesn't suit, please let me know. Because we didn't have very good response rates on the capture messages at the start, because people were saying, so my number's on the side, give me a phone if you're interested. Well, that's a passive candidate. Stop it. I'm not going to phone you. Firstly, you didn't tell them the client's name because you're working contingent. And secondly, you're not giving enough information. They're not going to phone you.
That is absolutely brilliant. I love every aspect of communication in business or in recruitment especially that leads to people psychologically going, yes, I'll do that, or I'm expecting that. Mental shortcuts that make people feel like the experience is what they expect it to be and what they actually kind of want it to be as well.
Yeah.
So I really, really like the aspect of not giving them, or the call to action being on yourself rather than you call me, I'm going to call you. I actually personally do some of these things. So I for example, if I want to get in contact with somebody and I want to get a meeting arranged with them, then I'll send them a note and say that I want to talk to them, and I'm going to send them a calendar invite. And if the time doesn't suit, then just to recommend an alternative. I send the calendar invite. It's in their diary. They either accept it or they reply back and say, in 2 days' time, in 2 weeks' time, in 2 months' time. At least they've given me some kind of response, because people just don't want to remove. They don't just go delete and not say anything.
Yeah, and I think that from our training, see for this, the 15-15 rule and all the training that we do and everything that we've learned about the industry and sales and recruitment in general has come from the people I know who are best at their job, or the things that even when I was in sales and recruitment, the things I was doing instinctively.
Yeah,
it's taken years to actually work out what it was and write it down. Not just from me. This is a kind of culmination of everyone I've ever experienced and I've watched. But I'm quite a big fan of executive coaching, and I've got a coach myself. And it was him that said, I kept saying, we're struggling to find people. We're not hiring enough, and I'm not getting the quality through the door. Yet I couldn't articulate what the qualities were that I was looking for. It's just, I don't know. It's just not them. And until I was able to articulate that, we were never going to grow. And then when I brought the right person in, until I could articulate what I wanted them to do, we weren't going to grow either. So there was an internal training thing there. And that, by proxy, completely accidentally, unbelievably shaped our training. Mm-hmm. Because it was, wait a minute, the things I want them to do in sales is the exact same thing a recruiter should be doing. Could we use Odro to enhance that? Yes. Could we build it to fix it? Yes. Right, let's do that. And it started to organically kind of play... I started to organically shape what we now are today. Yeah.
So tell me about, I'm actually going to dot around a few different things. I might go forward to a few things and then back again, because there's so many different aspects of this. I want to talk about recruitment agencies. Mm-hmm. Everything you're talking about so far is entirely relevant to internal talent sourcing teams, talent acquisition teams. Okay. Why do you specifically offer Odro to recruitment agencies rather than targeting in-house teams?
So there's a few reasons for this. The first one is I consider myself now, after years of studying the industry, I kind of find myself now as reasonably knowledgeable about recruitment agencies, because that's where I focused. Probably from a confidence part, for me to lead the business in a certain way, I'm much more confident to lead it into a market of 40,000 recruiters, whatever the number is today, that agency market in the UK, US, APAC, wherever we're going. I feel confident to do that. When I dipped my toe in the in-house water a couple of years ago, the drivers behind buying the technology were different. The budgets assigned to that person to make that call were different. So when they said, hey, we're looking at video, and I would say, great, why? They wouldn't know. Oh, well, I'm trying to save time, but actually that wasn't the main issue. It was something else hidden underneath that. And as I said before, we had to get business in early. So we switched off from that and said, look, we need to focus on owner-managed businesses, for example, that can make decisions quickly. That was my reason for not going into it then. Now, we offer such a comprehensive service to agencies and how it's positioned, the best way to treat your clients. We've had inquiries from big companies, Tesla, for example. Don't know if anyone from Tesla's watching, but we've had Tesla come in and say, look, we've inquired, we're interested. We had to say, sorry, we can't do that, because they hear about us through agencies. So an agency comes up and says, hey, we're using this fantastic technology from Odro, and this is what we do. So for me, trying to be, loyal and, kind of respectable and ethical, I can't then take their customer from them and they potentially, don't value that agency as much. So it was a very conscious decision for us to say, look, if you want to buy Odro, here is a list of agencies that serve your market in your area. I'm sure they'll service you well with the product.
So you will not provide this to internal talent acquisition teams?
No.
Wow, you're a lot more ethical than I am, because we sell to both. We sell to everybody that wants talent pipelines,
and everyone does, and I believe we're the only ones that don't. And we do a lot of things, like for a recruitment agency, for example. This is a white label solution. So I had a phone call about a year and a half ago, and they said, you must be, I was going to swear there, I'm trying my best to withhold that, but they said, you must be really scared at the moment, because there are video interview platforms popping up everywhere. All these agencies are building their own. And he named off 4 that he'd seen, and all 4 were Odro customers that had white labeled their platform to sell to the market. So it was working. And the market from the outside looked really fragmented, and most of them were us. So for me, we need to just focus on what we plan to do, and yeah, I know a lot about video in terms of how that affects the candidate experience, how it affects the internal hiring processes and stuff. But our market commercially is very much to, we only will sell this to a recruitment agency. Yeah,
okay. If I was because I'll tell you what, if I was tell me about can you talk about, I don't know whether you can talk about your pricing, but what's the sort of span from what? If I'm a recruitment agency, I'm going to be paying, what's the bottom end, what's this kind of top end that I would be paying?
So we do ratchet pricing. So bottom end, entry level, $399 a month, gets you up to 5 users.
Yeah.
So the next level up from that's $499, gets you up to 15 users. So that kind of becomes the sweet spot in value. Up to 30 users is $649, and it kind of grows from there. The only other thing we charge for is the training, which is on site.
Yeah. Okay. So the training, tell us about, how does it work? How do you, if I'm an agency and I want Odro, what happens? What do you do?
First thing I understand is why they bought it.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, the difficult thing that we've got as a business is that people still view video as a small percentage now, still look at video as a fad. And we get inquiries from people who are buying it because it's the in thing today, but they don't expect it to last.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, and I understand, don't get me wrong, I completely understand why they say that, why they think that, where they're coming from. But for me, it's our job to educate our prospects on, look, this is why video is the thing. This is the things it can unlock for your business. Are those of interest? Because if they're not, they'll probably buy it and leave. And we're so fixated on churn, because I believe it's the lowest in the market. But if you're focusing on that part, then we always go back to success criteria. It's like if you are a recruiter and you take a job spec and then you give candidates and they say they don't want to see them, yet they match everything on the spec, you go, well, I can go back to this. I can say, well, I did my job. Why are we not moving forward? Do you want to go back and change what you originally said? And that's what we do with Odro. You buy it, most of the time it's because people say we're struggling to stand out in the market. And because of that, we're only working contingent. And because of that, our fill rate's 1 in 4. And the list goes on. But the main issue, we might be solving fill rate's 1 in 4. Okay, we'll solve that issue so that after the 6-week implementation, we can say, hey, your fill rate's now 3 in 4, 2.8 in 4, whatever it is. We've done our job. Renew for 3 years.
Okay, so if I am I'm a recruitment agency director. I've bought Odro, and you've come in and done the training. Mm-hmm. Your team are learning new things all the time. How do I benefit from continued knowledge transfer?
So we do webinars, and I don't. We do webinars regularly. We don't do it on a one a week or one a fortnight. We do them when we learn something new. So, for example, we did a webinar last week on productization. It wasn't. No, it was on job. What would you call that? Job scoring. So, for example, a KPI in 90% of agencies is go win 8 jobs. You've got to win 8 jobs a month. Now that could be, a job where you're up against 19 agencies, and you don't have any candidates, or it could be a job where they've given you, a retained deposit up front, and it's cool. They don't differentiate in the KPI, and then they complain that their fill rates are low. But then they also complain that someone's hit their number, but they only got 6 jobs on out of 8, but they hit the number. So there was all this misconception, and I learned it from one of their fantastic, really process-driven business, and their EBIT was through the roof. And it was because their process is nailed down. You cannot go outside of that. And they use the process as a management tool as well. So we learned that. We applied it to the majority of our customers. We kind of shaped it to say, well, if we explain it like this, that would work. And then we did a webinar on it. Our webinars go really well. We have a mix of new customers, existing customers, prospects, and that's how we kind of put the knowledge out there anyway. Or through LinkedIn videos just off the cuff.
Yeah. Okay. So for people working in talent acquisition, it sounds like you're actually excluded from buying Odro, which is a damn shame. However, and yes, that is true. However, hopefully I can explain a lot of value around why use video, although I won't commercially benefit from it. I could certainly like to help. Here's my message to anybody in talent acquisition is listen to what Ryan and his colleagues are saying, because even some of the things that you've just been talking about in the last kind of 15 minutes, I've learned things and I thought I knew a lot about talent attraction. So, they absolutely will learn simply by following you and your colleagues for sure. I was just wondering if they could buy at £399 a month, they could buy no use of Odro, but just to stay kept connected on all your thinking, stuff like that, and all your tips and skills. I'd be tempted to do that. Okay, let's talk about recruitment agencies a little bit further. There's been, I don't know, I guess I've been in recruitment for 20 years, and I think that 15 of those 20 years I've been getting told recruitment agencies are going to die any minute. First it was job boards, then it was LinkedIn. Now it's lots of different, the rise of talent acquisition teams, and it hasn't happened. And if anything, there's definitely more recruitment agencies than there ever have been. So but however, they don't all succeed, of course. What are the 4 or 5 traits that you see of a successful recruitment agency that really sets them apart?
The first one I would see, and this isn't directed at Odro, this is not a plug or a loaded question. The first thing I see is innovation. Yeah. The best performing agencies I see have innovated, not just with Odro. They might have bought another bit of technology, or they might have, started hiring, new mums that are, working from home a lot of the time. These new practices that seem, again, coming from a guy who gets this a lot, that seem like a fad or seem like just a new thing to keep people happy. There is a lot of nonsense out there, but there's also a lot of very valuable stuff. So innovation's a big thing that I notice as a trend in all the best performing companies that attract the best people, that work with the best, in-house teams, are innovating constantly. They invest in their teams and training constantly, not just as a one-off. They don't say, hey, great, you've learned this, go and bill me an extra 200 grand this year. It's very much, okay, we learned this week, and then next week, how did that learning go when it was applied? Did this work? Did that work? No, let's reset and go again. So learning and development being a very major focus on a weekly basis is a common theme across them. What other traits do I see?
Or the opposite. The companies that you see and you go, geez, that's not going to do very well. Is there anything that stands out about them that you would avoid things? And it's probably, I'm trying not to just revert what I've just said, like lack of innovation. Lack of innovation, lack of training, So lack of trust in your people.
is unbelievable. So obviously, recruitment agencies, they're so up on their data, right? They need their data, like, you know, all the candidates, they've got everything else. It is the lifeblood of their business. But I mean, there's companies out there that can't use Odro because they've blocked all the USB ports on the computers, and they won't allow them to be unblocked in case someone tries their way to steal something. So we can't plug a camera in, like. And I'm like, guys, surely need to trust your teams. Surely there must be other ways than just don't let them plug in USB things. Like, you know,
awful.
There's a hell of a lot more on this as well. But the lack of trust creates a horrible culture. No one wants to go the extra mile for your clients, and then your brand suffers. So that's a horrible cyclical thing that we've been in with a few agencies that don't trust their people, don't invest in their people. They just hope to rely on the things that worked 3 years ago. Yeah, and I can see them struggling.
What do you think about contingency recruitment?
Loaded question. I'm one of these naysayers that says that the contingent payment model in recruitment is ruining the industry. I mean, I get it. It's been around a lot longer than I have, but I don't know. I can't see it being fair to work for 4 or 5 weeks and then be told, no, you're not getting any money for that. I don't see how you can possibly prioritize quality when you don't know if you're going to feed your kids. Like, you just can't do it. So I believe what drove the contingent payment model was competition. Don't worry, I tell you what, don't even need to pay me until I get the job, which in theory is driving quality. Don't worry, you don't need to pay me unless I do what you think I'm going to do, which is fine until you add 5 or 6 different agencies into the mix. That means if you've got 6 in there, 5 of them aren't getting paid for 6 weeks' work. So that becomes unethical, in my opinion. And also, there is nothing to stop the client pulling the job or changing the spec or moving the start date or anything else. So it's not just the recruiter's fault that they didn't fill the role a lot of the time. They've done the work that they said they would do, and they still didn't get paid. And I just think that's appalling. I don't think it's the right way. I don't think it's ethical. I don't think it's the right way anyone should work. I understand how we've got here, but I think there's a way to get out. And I just think that if we stop the hamster wheel for a minute and just look and say, right, okay, what could we do to get out of this? The top 50% of the industry is able to do it.
I couldn't agree more. I personally think that it's the number one reason why the recruitment world sometimes doesn't get as good a reputation as it should.
100%. That's the only.
Yeah, well, I think there's one or two others. I can name one or two others, but it's definitely the biggest one. The hiring manager has zero commitment to their internal HR or recruitment team to be able to give feedback. The recruitment or internal HR team's got no commitment to give feedback to the recruitment agency. The recruitment agency's got no commitment to give feedback to the candidates. The candidates have got no commitment to give feedback to anybody else. And so I think that's one aspect to it.
Yeah. It's like. And by the way, sorry, you're right. I did say that was the only reason. It's not the only reason, but you're right. It is the major reason.
Yeah. It's like a madcap death race. There's only one, and only one person survives.
Yeah, and usually I kind of ignite these discussions on LinkedIn, and I get the same people all the time. They say, "Oh no, I am a contingent recruiter. I will never be a retained recruiter because I believe I shouldn't be paid until I deliver it." And all that stuff, and I'm like, "Look, I get it. Your clients are going to read it, and you're going to look good. And come on, like, let's just stop for a minute. You can't say you're happy working 6 weeks and not getting paid because someone else got another candidate."
I personally believe that there might be a way of some kind of legislation changing the way that the recruitment agency world works. And yes, I think there'll be a lot of people have to leave the market because they won't be able to keep up with the professionalism that a retained approach determines. I think that maybe only 40% of recruiters will get all of the work that exists today, but they'll be doing it in a much, much better way than the 100% that exists today. That's one vision that I have for it. But
I think that when you're talking about legislation, that the low barrier to entry to get into the industry causes a lot of these problems as well.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, you're talking about the legislation coming in there. I could literally say tomorrow, I don't even need to register a limited company. No. It'll help, but I could just say, yeah, I'm self-employed, sole trader. I found this candidate CV. What do you think?
Yeah.
It's on Indeed. I pay them £100 a month, whatever it is. There's my candidate. I'm now due to be paid £8,000 on my terms, which I emailed you and you didn't sign. Like, oh, hold on. Like, we just need to stop for a minute.
just quickly tell you about one of the most innovative recruiters I ever met. He worked for Quick Fit Financial Services, and he worked the minimum hours that you could in the call center at Quick Fit Financial Services, which I think was like 16 hours a week or something like that, 16-hour contract per week, in order to qualify for the employee referral scheme. And he spent every other waking hour in a hotel very near to their office, interviewing people and then placing them into the company that he worked for. And he was placing like 4 people a week and getting like 1,500 quid per person. He was getting like $6,000 a week from the employee referral scheme.
Genius.
So tell me about. I know exactly, absolutely. Listen, tell me about. Well, there's two things in order. Tell me about social media. Tell me what you think about it. You and your team are very visible on social media. Have you got a playbook? Have you got like rules or anything? And what are you trying to achieve?
Okay, so we do well on LinkedIn. On average, our videos get 500,000 views a month now, which is insane. That's a kind of combination of them all. And the reason this all started is because I didn't know how to build a brand. So when we started Odro, I was like, right, okay, hold on a second. That's Lee, our marketing guy, secret sauce. So what happened was I said, right, okay, I don't know how to build a brand. I don't know anything about marketing, and personal brand wasn't really a thing, or it certainly wasn't a buzzword 4 or 5 years ago. So I said, well, look, I don't know how to build a brand, but I do know how to just be myself and just kind of talk about me. And at that point, I was Odro. There was no one else talking to customers or anything, so that was it. And then when we hire people, sorry, I keep adjusting my volume because I can hear myself coming back in my speakers. So when I decided, right, okay, I don't know how to build a brand, but what we could do is as we hire other people, the Odro brand could just be an aggregation of our people. So all of these individual personal brands would become Odro, and that's kind of what we've done today. So if someone thinks of Odro, they don't think of a company that posts stats and case studies and white papers and all that sort of stuff. They think of the person. Or some people might know me, some people might know Dougie, might be Sophie, Ainsley, Amanda, Nick, whoever it is, they might know one of them. And that gives us, if I'm being honest, it also gives us a few bites at the cherry, because if someone doesn't like me, they may like Dougie, they may like Nick. Yeah, it helps us a lot. Yeah. So that was the thinking behind it. And we always say, as we deliver the knowledge or the stats and anything else we want to know, we deliver it through a person rather than through a figure, which was the brand. Yeah.
You've got a split of, I mean, some of your videos are rich with knowledge, and some of them are fun. People on tour. What's your? Have you got a? Oh, well, this is Lee's secret sauce, isn't it? Then I guess I don't know. Have you got a specific sort of ratio for the blend, or do you just do it in the way that you do your sort of webinars, and you call them regular webinars, and it's no specific time frame? It's just whenever we've got something to share, we share it.
We found it quite good to get the blend in the videos. We found it quite good to just document the training day, because we've got a bit of culture, we've got a bit of content of the training, a bit of knowledge, and we also got a bit more kind of personal comments and culture at the end of that. So that was the closest to process we've got on videos. But usually it's got to be just off the cuff. There's 3 values we have at Odro. Every employee, every post, everything that we do at Odro it follows 3 things. It's energy, authenticity, and trust. So 3 things. And if you'd asked me that 3 years ago, I'd have said, oh, that's airy-fairy, that's a bit fluffy, you'd need to get your hands dirty. But actually, the more we've realised that now, anyone who's ever came to Odro and not worked out for it, we've had to let them go, hasn't had one or more of those values at heart. Whereas everyone out in that office right now has energy about the work they do, about getting up in the morning, speaking to clients, speaking to customers, speaking to each other. They have energy. If they're authentic, if they don't try and be something they're not, if they try and, they're very trustworthy, they don't tell lies to each other, they don't say they're going to do something and don't do it. If they can't do something, they will tell you, I can't do that. Do you want me to go and learn, or do you want someone else to do it? That they never tell each other lies. Those three things have literally built this business.
Yeah.
The people that I've got there. So, and the videos take a part of that. Videos and content on LinkedIn has to be energetic. It has to be trustworthy to tell lies, and it has to be authentic. So don't be someone you're not. I'm very honest. I'm from a working class background. I'm just a hard worker, and I want to see things go well. So I don't pretend to. I could sit here and talk about gearing ratios and EBITDA. I could talk and I could put on an accent. I could be very professional. I don't. It's not me. I want to.
Are you saying you don't trust middle class people?
No comment. No, what I'm trying to say is, wherever you come from, that's where you are. Don't pretend you're something you're not. Like I trust everyone who acts as their own, who doesn't pretend to be someone else. You can sniff it out, Adam. You know that as well as I do. You speak to someone, you know if they're trying to pretend to be something.
Yeah, I understand that totally. This is going to be a slightly challenging question, and
like it.
I know that you prefer questions that you haven't been preparing for. If you're building most of the people I know in your company have all got the values that you're talking about, and they all do seem to be pretty similar in character and the way that they are. I wonder if that is at the expense of diversity of thinking, diversity of values, diversity of ways of just being.
Yep.
I know you're not a huge company, but do you think as you grow, that might be a question that you'll ask yourselves?
So diversity is at the forefront of actually what we are doing. I believe we are where we are because we have diversity, both of a lot of different things. If I can explain, my business partner Bill is 65.
Yeah, sure.
Has never been involved in recruitment. Was the chief executive of a solicitor's property centre that printed newspapers. So there's a massive difference in what Bill did to what we do today. Bill's still a very active member of the team, involved in all the decisions that we make. We've got Mark, who is an academic. Who I'm not an academic. He's an academic. He's very, very intellectual guy. He's he was the head of platform or solutions architect, whatever his job title was at Cambridge University Press. A genius. And then we've got people like Dougie, who's 24, who came from a completely different background to me. We've got Nomi, who Nomi is a self-taught software developer. He was a medical student, dropped out of medical school, came into worked at Carrefour Warehouse when we met him, and he came in for an interview. Complete punt. Came in for an interview, and Mark said, "How do you know this stuff? You've not got any qualifications." He's like, "YouTube." Nomi's now a serious member of the tech team.
Yeah.
So you've got, there is people from middle class, working class, there is older people, we have people from all different ethnicities. We have, I think about 40% of our workforce is female compared to male. So when you look at all the different measurables of diversity, obviously diversity in thinking comes from that initial overall diversity. So I believe we actually do it pretty well.
So the fact that a lot of the people have got similar types of personalities, that is countered by the fact that they've all got different backgrounds and they're still bringing different thinking, even though they've got the same kind of
So we talk about, the energy, authenticity, and trust isn't actually a personality trait. It's just more of a I don't know how you would like categorize that. It's like that's a very good way to put it. It's like a spirit. Whereas a personality, we've got people out there that wouldn't dare go on video.
Yeah.
We wouldn't dare go on video. We've got customer success managers out there who deal with people face to face. They don't put content on video on LinkedIn. That's okay. That's okay.
That's a good point, though. That is a very good point, because I guess the people that we see and we know from Odro are the people who do. So
exactly. But that's the people that Odro, as a business, require you to see. You need to see them. You need to see who we are, and that shows off the people in there. But for example, we posted a video up. Nomi's a practicing Muslim, and it was Ramadan. Now, completely unbeknown to me, I came in one day and there's all this food ordered on the table. And what's this? Nick, off his own back, had went and found halal breakfasts, lunches, dinners, all this sort of stuff, and had this feast for Eid for Nomi off his own back. Everyone was involved. We stopped work and we kind of broke the fast with Nomi to have his first meal with him in the morning. So when we're talking about diversity, we're encouraging that. We're looking at everyone else saying, hey, what's your background? What do you do? Oh, hey, let's all get involved. But that isn't driven from me.
No,
it's driven from them, and that's where people make the mistake. It doesn't come from the top down. It's got to be bred. It's got to be bred between the whole team at all other aspects of it. All the corners on it.
Hat tip, Nick. That was a really cool move. Yeah.
Food was good as well.
Cool, good. So I want to talk about roadmap. You're obviously you're known for video. Is there any interesting sort of developments, or are you continue just video?
At the moment, we're video.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean there's no interesting developments on that side.
Yeah.
We started as video interviewing.
Yeah.
We've then moved to video engagement. We see a lot of power in that. We see a lot of improvements that could be made.
Yeah.
For us as a business, our last 3 months and our next 3 months are very focused on integrations, if I'm honest. But we have an arm of the team that just focuses constantly on innovation and trying new things. And we did come across something really interesting, specifically for candidate engagement. I think if I can put this in a way that's not going to set competitors on fire and know what we're going to do.
Don't say anything you don't want to say.
No. Yeah.
Just tell us about last thing I want to, which is really for me the $1 million question. So you talk about, Odro talks about if you use Odro, you're going to get more retainers.
Yes.
I look at that and I think, wow, that is a cool statement. Mm-hmm. But I'm not quite sure I make the link without knowing what the link is. So Could you just talk through, how does that work? How am I going to get more retainers from using Odro?
So the reason, let me start from the very basic reason. Let me pick John Recruiter. John Recruiter makes 50 calls a day or 30 calls, 10 calls a day, whatever it is, and they're the same calls to roughly the same people. And the problem that John knows is he is selling the same service as Jessica round the corner who works at B agency. Now, John knows that if he asks to be retained on that role, a popular rejection would be no, because Jessica's working contingent. And John is not well aware enough of his differentiation in service to counteract that objection. He knows he does the same job as Jessica, but he can't. So see, he cannot then ask for it. Also, everything John does, he gives on his basic product. He says, what do you do? I find candidates, I interview them, I send them to you, you hire them, then you pay me. That's what I do. So how can you negotiate higher fees? How can you negotiate exclusivity when you give everything you have as your basic product? And herein lies the problem with contingent recruitment. But if I go back now, let's say you now have video. So let's say that Jessica's phoning and saying, I'm going to get you candidates, I'm going to get you CVs, get you interviews. But John phones up and says, yeah, I know Jessica does that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take your first stage interview questions. I'm going to take them to my candidates. I'm going to record an unedited 6 to 7 minute video for you, answering your first stage interview questions. I'm then going to send that back to you alongside the CV as my submission. And hopefully you can share that link internally and get answers quicker from your hiring managers. This service through me doesn't cost you any more than my basic service. It's the exact same price, but we do require a small commitment up front to make sure we can give you all this free stuff. And that then becomes transitioning between knowing your worth, knowing what you do between contingent and retained, and knowing why you're better than Jessica. And that's the basic understanding of why Odro can help you. There's a hell of a lot more round about it.
Yeah, sure.
The 3 C's in productization, but the basic understanding is you need to know why you're better than Jessica, and you need to know why your contingent offering is not as good as your retained offering, and that's the basic.
Do you find that big recruitment companies can land this type of new thinking better than smaller ones, or not necessarily?
I think it's the opposite. So from the we work with a lot of big companies now, and there's just big companies have longer serving staff. I've done this for 20 years. It works. Is it working as well as it did 20 years ago? No. Okay, can we talk then? Like, I'm not saying it doesn't work. You can get by, and I'll never, if you're half decent, you can get by. You can just hit your target, just fall short, just fall whatever it is. But if you really want to do the numbers that everyone said you were going to do in the first year, you're going to do it differently, because what you're doing now doesn't work anymore. We get much... it's hard to say. I don't want to prejudice bigger companies, because in the bigger companies we work with, there are very, very forward-thinking people that appreciate the position they're in. We've got a great brand behind us, lots of good things, experience, knowledge, all this sort of stuff, yet we are still pitching it the way we did 10 years ago, and they know that needs to change. Whereas you've got a small company who can change the company's pitch like that, but doesn't have all of those traits behind them. So that becomes a toss-up. But in practice, if I had to pick one, I would say that the smaller companies, 30 to 80 staff, pick it up better than anyone else.
Okay, I'm going to come back to that, but I've got two more questions. I'm going to come back to one that relates to that. Nick has he must have taken a note. I don't know where Iker's question went earlier, but what's Ryan's views on video for sourcing candidates?
We kind of covered that on the percentage response rate. The reason you use video to go for candidates is because they'll respond to that more than they will respond to the written template that you're sending. It's very difficult these days to tell between a template, a bot, a copy paste. It's too difficult to tell.
I know. I absolutely agree. Share something that shows that it's for them. It's like, unfortunately, it's like if you've been kidnapped and you want to show that you're still alive, you show today's newspaper. Now, final question.
A new one. Yep.
Final question. Who's your favorite customer and why? Absolute favorite and why?
Put me on the spot.
You said you like it like that.
I know. I'm going to say Cast UK. Cast UK are my favourite customer because Cast UK supported us when no one else would at the very start. They've given very honest feedback to help us shape the product all the way through, and they use it very well, and they listen to us. They don't think they know best because they know their customer, and we've learned a lot from them, by the way, and they've taken a lot from us. They supported us in the early days. They continue to support us, and they use the product very well. Not just top down. The teams use it very well, and they see the results. They see fantastic results from it. So yes, Wayne Brophy runs Cash UK. He's been a great supporter of us. So I'll say Wayne's my favourite customer. Sounds like you've been on a journey with them over a few years. Yeah, I mean, people, you'll know this, right? When you're building the business, building the product, there's a lot of things that you have to guess. You have to go, I think the client will like this. And it's very difficult to get clients because most clients buy a lot of the early clients buy just because they like you and they see something in you. And, they go, right, okay, I'm going to come along for the ride. And with that, because of that relationship, they don't like giving you bad news. And the best people to help you along that journey and at that stage are the people that can say, this is shit, this isn't working. Why? Can we fix it? But not in a I'm going to leave way, in a it's causing me this problem and you really need to fix it by then sort of way. And that's helped us massively because there's times where, in the early days where we've made mistakes. All we've had to do is say, look, we're down in tools, we're going to help you, and we provide a good service back. That's the only way we can repay that favour. And we've been commended from that, by Cast, by anyone else, commended for the service. But that's why that relationship's been so good, and that's why it does feel like a journey. I was actually speaking at the Cast UK conference a month or so ago. It was about thinking differently and about differentiation in the market, and it worked really well. It landed really well for everyone.
Very last question. Do you work with Hague Associates?
Yes.
Yeah, they're pretty well known for their video.
Okay. Well, Hague, aye.
I'll come back to that some other time. Okay, listen, this has been as I expected. It's been fun. I've also learned a load, and I'm a big supporter of what you're doing at Odro, and wish you all the best. And no doubt see you soon. And thanks so much for coming and joining me.
Thanks very much, Adam. That was brilliant to have me on. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.
See ya.